Ladies and gentlemen, I am Paul, U.S. Army combat veteran, and as we all know, times are tough. But don't worry, we have Scout from Team Fortress 2 here to let us know what keeps him ticking. This is Keep Going, Buddy, SFM. Let's do it. Make sure it's at the max settings. Okay, just gotta point out one. What's crazy is you see here this iPhone. Okay, when Team Fortress 2 came out, this is how old TF2 is. When Team Fortress 2 came out, I don't think there were smartphones. Like the smartphone as a concept was still in like the design phase. So this is it blows my mind that this is still such a popular game, still going strong. I'd think, you know, as strong as the smartphone industry perhaps. Excuse me. Let's keep going. I wonder if that's supposed to be a joke that the Folio 5.5 is like an iPhone 5, right? I mean, Scout would Scout have, here's the real question. So either Scout is going to have the newest iPhone and always be in line to get the latest iPhone, or he's going to have an iPhone 5 with a cracked screen and a battery that lasts approximately 45 seconds per charge. There will be no in between. Let me know in the comments what you think it is. And also, do me a favor, guys. One more thing. Please hit subscribe. We are so close to 100,000 subscribers on this channel. I would love to get that silver play button. Just, it doesn't cost you anything. Just tap the button. Thank you so much. Now, come on, man. You know how this goes. You hit snooze 6 times a piece. And when you get married, what I learned is that you both get the same number of snooze hits. So you both get 3. So actually, the two of you are woken up by an alarm 6 times. You know, and they're only different by the fact that either you set slightly different times to wake up, or your phones are just on slightly different times. So you get like 3 to 5 seconds between alarms going off. It's honestly terrible. That would be the part where I throw the phone across the room in aggravation, but I'm not a morning person. If you can't infer that from the copious amounts of coffee I'm always drinking. Oh! Damn, we've all had that morning.
What? Oh, jeez!
Okay, fun fact, guys, don't look down the barrel of a weapon. Let's see. Let's replay this in real time. Yeah, look at this safety violation. It's a scatter gun too, guys. No. You know weapon safety. Finger off the trigger, weapon only pointed in safe directions, and assume your weapon is always loaded. Just to be fair, this is Scout, so intelligence is not his strongest stat.
Who will throw it heavy? Rock, paper, scissors! Heavy wins!
Ridiculous.
See, Soldier knows this because he understands in the military, hurry up and wait around is the defining feature of the service. I think it's true in almost every country and in almost every branch that you hurry up to get somewhere and then you wait around for something that has gone wrong or someone else who's late. This is the most, and the fact that he just can deal with it is a testament to just the fact that he is a soldier through and through. Though, fun fact, guys, even soldiers hate having their time wasted.
You are no match for me! Keep crying, baby!
Fellas!
You should be.
Okay, I like that. Pyro's just like, you're 3 hours late, and he's still like, hey!
And gotten out of bed.
Mission begins in 60 seconds.
Gentlemen, last one alive, lock the door!
Here I come!
Yeah!
Huh.
3, 2, 1.
So I can't tell if this is meant to be some sort of commentary on like PTSD or combat. I actually think it's more of the like existential dread of just like a day job, you know, where you just wake up, drive to work, you know, the wage Wojak meme. I feel like that's what we're trying to capture here.
Alert. The enemy has taken our intelligence.
Let's do it!
Failed.
Freedom!
Guys, one of the interesting philosophical points about living forever, right, is that while obviously, well, some people would say they want to live forever, but here's the problem, is that the tedium never ends, right? And if every bad thing that has ever happened to you, if you were to live forever, it will happen an infinite number of times. And you can imagine if you're someone like Scout, like imagine what it would actually feel like to be a Scout, right? To every day play the exact same maps, the exact same game modes, the exact same conflict for 13 years, day after day after day after day. I mean, just the lack of stimulation, the lack of progress. It's one of the things that, you know, I was lucky and I have never been in a job that's quite that level of like monotony and bureaucratic grindiness, but it seems like pretty terrible.
Go, go, go!
Alert. The enemy has taken our intelligence.
Or is he just mad because his player, the person controlling him, isn't moving? We've all seen that, the AFK Scout.
Doctor!
Medic!
Three, two, one.
Yeah, you know, I gotta say, one of the things that I think this is capturing is how it feels sometimes to be in peacetime military, right? And it's not the same, right? A military on a war footing has a purpose. It has a reason for existing, and the frantic pace of operations makes sense, right? You have to train, you have to be ready for war because you're never more than a couple of weeks or months away from another deployment. But the peacetime military has the same pace, but none of the high stakes. Like, imagine a job that, the peacetime military, I mean, it doesn't have to deliver anything. The only thing it's required to deliver is readiness. But the you wouldn't know it from walking around a base, right? Leadership works 12 hours a day. People come in on the weekends all the time. There's constant unmissable deadlines that are just like, you have 3 hours to fill out every soldier, whether their weapon has been, gone through the maintenance properly. Fill out this spreadsheet. You have 3 hours, or else. And it's like, or else what, dude? The weapons aren't going to be used for anything. Next range is in 6 months, right? This is just someone else's problem, But that's how it is for everything. Quick, we need your soldier's dental readiness status by the end of close of business today. And it's like, for what, dude? They're not going anywhere. Their teeth aren't going anywhere. Like, you can wait a little bit for a dental readiness update, And the reason is because some colonel somewhere, up at headquarters is just like, needs to brief a slide about dental readiness for the quarterly meeting, and he realizes that the data's old, so it filters down. By the time it gets to you, it looks like a frantic no-fail task, but like, that's not the way. The consequences are nil. It's sometimes called the self-licking ice cream cone, where you are just it exists only to serve itself. And there's so much self-licking ice cream cones in the military, but sometimes they're treated like they are the most important thing that's ever happened. And I think one of the things that's really eye-opening about the Ukraine conflict is that you have a military that was it's not even a good analogy because it's been on a war footing for better part of 8 years, and they still, like, the military now, it's not, they just don't have the US level of like, get everything done right now. Like, treating everyone like they're an Amazon delivery driver. And like, there's a countdown timer to be like, you must make your next delivery in 30 seconds or else. And it's like, listen, guess what? When the chips are down, people still fight hard because they want to be alive, And so you're like, well, if you can be effective, like here's the thing. The U.S. military stopping a near-peer adversary like Russia is like its reason for existence. And yet they were able to be stopped, right? The boogeyman of Russia, the near-peer adversary, was thwarted by the Ukraine armed forces, a military a third of the size at best, with outdated equipment, though eventually they did get better equipment, and an army of basically conscripts. So then you ask yourself, why do we have to have the dental readiness slides to you by close of business? It's not stopping the Russian military. We just by existing with decent technology, the U.S. military can stop the Russian military, right? Is China worlds better? No, if anything, they seem worse. And so you're like, why? Why do I work 12 hours a day to bone exhaustion for nothing? Anyway, I think that's what Scout's feeling right now. You're supposed to feel bad. You're like, oh, you all should feel bad. We lost. But it's like, we lost what? We're going to do this again tomorrow, and maybe we'll win or lose. It's like getting yelled at for, not doing well on a training exercise. Damn, a PS4. It's a nice curved screen monitor. They must pay pretty well for you know, for the TF2 equivalent of being a Wojak.
Sandwich make me strong!
Oh no, even Netflix has ads in this timeline? Shit. Here's the other thing, guys, that's worth talking about, is that your mood and your outlook on the world can be really impacted by sometimes silly stuff, right? You think that you're having an existential crisis, but how often do you get a good night's sleep, hydrate properly, and then you wake up and the world just seems a little brighter? It's really common, and I think that is a function of the fact that there's often this downward spiral with either depression, the clinical event, or just being kind of in the dumps. And when you feel bad, you are less likely to take care of yourself well. When you don't take care of yourself well, your outlook on the world looks a little worse. You know, I mean, again, how much better do you feel going to work after 8 hours of sleep versus trying to go to work after 3 hours of sleep, right? It's night and day. And if you chronically went to work sleep deprived, exhausted, then you would not be, your outlook would be so poor, right? And so it becomes this downward spiral, and it's really hard to break yourself out of it. A lot of enlisted soldiers when I was in the military had lives just like scouts here. And the truth is, you understood why they hated it, why they hated being in the military, right? If you take care of yourself, you put in the effort, you make sure you try to get 8 hours of sleep, right? You eat relatively healthy foods, you can actually enjoy the parts of the military that are enjoyable, right? The camaraderie, doing some sometimes cool exercises, like, you know, occasionally you get to shoot a weapon. But yeah, if you feel miserable, nothing that you do feels fun. Everything feels miserable. Shit. Maybe this is PTSD. Guys, one of the theories about how PTSD happens is that it's not that something bad has happened to you intrinsically. It's that something bad has happened, and normally the human brain, in response to a threat, is going to take actions to mitigate that threat. And PTSD, by this one theory, is when you cannot do anything to escape the situation. You know, the difference between a dog, the example is a dog in a cage in a basement that starts to flood, right? The dog is trapped in the cage, the water is rising, and most terrifying at all, the dog is helpless. And when human beings are in that situation or believe themselves to be in that situation, in which they lose all control over their ability to stop what their mind perceives as a threat, that is when you start to develop severe PTSD, is the theory, right? And it's one of the reasons. It's that in surveys, they found that soldiers who developed PTSD were more likely to report that their commanders were either incompetent or malevolent and didn't listen to them, didn't hear them out, right? And that makes sense, right? You're a private. If you feel like when you have a concern, when you are worried about something, that your leadership is going to listen, that you have the ability to impact your own safety and situation, that is going to go way differently than if you're a private who believes that you are cannon fodder, right? And so I'd be really curious to see if different leadership styles and different militaries have different rates of PTSD. Again, I think about the Russian military in this conflict, in which soldiers are treated as utterly disposable cannon fodder and seem to not even be deemed worth telling them what they are doing or where they are going. Would that create more PTSD than a military in which people are given clear direction, a thorough understanding of why they're doing what they're doing, what their role in the larger war effort is? Is that going to have more or less impact? Again, it's a question of leadership styles. I tried my best, again, as much as you can try your best when you're a 23-year-old platoon leader, but to not run my unit like a military unit, if that makes sense, in the like the stereotypes, right? Like if a private saw a problem, I told them, I expect you to tell me about it. I expect you to raise it to your leadership and even better, bring us a solution, right? I expected everybody to be a thinking, seeing, leading element of our unit, right? And that meant that they had some agency. If they thought something was wrong, if they thought a tactic was incorrect, if they, and this is something I think you can get away with in the military police corps, because even our privates are expected to be able to, for example, pull over a high-ranking officer and charge them with a DUI. That requires maturity, requires emotional maturity, requires strategic, tactical maturity. You have to understand a situation. You have to think several steps ahead. These are skills that not every 19-year-old comes to the table with, but oftentimes with a little training, and once you show them that that is what we expect out of them, you see that they rise to that level. And I hope that the sense that they were not just people who received orders, but were on some level collaborators in a unit that needed everyone's thinking, everyone's ideas, everyone's input to function. I hope that never made them feel like that trapped dog in a basement. Does that make sense? Guys, the reason I can't talk about what Scout's doing is because I'll get demonetized.
Mission begins in 30 seconds.
Last one alive, lock the door!
Three, two, one.
Good night, Irene.
Yeah, one of the things I think is actually saddest about all this is that, Scouts presumably served with the other people on Red for years, and none of them seem to notice his changing behavior, his increasing dark outlook, his lack of motivation, or they notice it but believe it's just laziness. This is another thing that really irks me about the military, is that, there's a sense, and some people are just lazy, but oftentimes the laziness, right, at some point they wanted to be in the military, and it's not a secret that you do things like wake up early and go on exercises. So there's a reason that they went from wanting to do the thing and being unable to do it. Like we said, it might be that they don't have the skill set to actually take care of themselves, to go to bed at the right time, or to eat healthy, or to just not drink caffeine after 5 p.m. And they enter that downward spiral. But a good leader is going to understand that motivation is not something you can shout or shame into people. Nice.
You failed!
Boy, this here is just gonna keep happening and happening.
Yeah, you know, one of the things that human beings tend to wither when exposed to it is actually loneliness. There's a great book called Loneliness that covers, well, loneliness, but it impacts when human beings are removed from a social network, a real close, intimate network of people. They tend to decompensate. They tend to get noticeably worse, right? You engage, so when you spend extensive amounts of time alone, your worldview changes subtly in ways you don't even notice. The world looks and feels much more hostile. And if you noticed, you know, remember that 2-year long event around 2020, you may have noticed that it coincided with a sort of national character, at least in the United States, that became very, very hostile. Like, it was already not great, but what used to be fringe extreme views became the norm. And we've slowly started to adopt this worldview that people different from us are not just harmful or dangerous, but that the only way to deal with them is through physical violence. And this is the sort of thinking that will happen to human beings when they're isolated from each other. They tend to get extreme views, and usually extreme views are moderated by other people who will recognize that they're kind of dangerous. So I say that because if you just having one other person, right, who is a true friend can make a huge difference. And unfortunately, when we look at survey data, right, we find that the number of close friends people have is a very, very low. Let's see. Here we go. Here's from June of last year, showing that in 1990, only 3% of men surveyed, adult men surveyed, reported they had no close friends. Let's see if we can pull this graphic up, right? Yeah, 1990. No close friends, 1990, 3% of men, right? And 40% of men reported they had 10 or more close friends. Now in 2021, 15% of men report having no close friendships, right? That 15% is 1 in 8, right? And if you add let's say less than 2 friends or fewer, here, in 1990, that number was about 12% of men, right? Now, men with 2 or fewer friends represent almost a third of all men. So you're talking about a rapidly shrinking social network. And you see this, I think, in the increase in attitudes condoning violence, a sense of other people being dangerous, right? Just existing. You notice it in the way that people view dating as trying to avoid danger, right? Instead of trying to avoid toxic people, instead of with the more optimistic outlook of trying to find someone you really connect with. And honestly, it makes me incredibly sad and incredibly worried.
We're a sorry bunch of losers.
Drunk on the battlefield ain't no way to be, son.
You will not be missed.
Uh-oh.
You
Bloody hell, you're awful.
What's that?
It's only gonna get worse, mate.
Am I too violent for you, cupcake?
Whoa. Yeah, this is the thing, man. They always say people don't leave jobs, they leave leaders. And it's true. You can do a pretty terrible job, but if you like the people you see every day, it is a game changer. And I can tell you this personally, right? I had the same job where I was on one team where I liked everybody and we all liked each other. It was a collaborative environment. We produced great work. It was a pleasure. And then I've moved over to teams where I had conflicts with everybody, not everybody, but a lot of people. And literally it was as though I had switched into another job entirely. Getting up to work was harder. Getting motivated to do the jobs was harder, because it's hard to let down your friends who are counting on you to produce good work, and it's easy to let down people who you kind of hate, right? So, we've all been there.
Three, two, one.
Ah, crap.
Whoa. I actually feel bad for Sniper, who correctly acknowledged that Soldier was kind of being a piece of shit. So yeah, this is sometimes, guys, what he may be depicting instead. We thought it was, but it may be depicting the process of what's called radicalization. And radicalization is one of the unfortunate outgrowths of a society in which people are, we use the term now, disenfranchised. Classically, disenfranchised mean you can't vote, but now it just means that you no longer have much agency over your life. In developing countries, especially ones that are very patriarchal, there tends to be a sense of men at the bottom of the social ladder are excluded from almost everything. They work extremely unstable, low-wage jobs. They are oftentimes so impoverished that they don't really have marriage prospects, or like romantic prospects, right? When they just control no resources. And we think about this today, right? Imagine you're 35, you live in a house with a bunch of roommates, you rent a room somewhere in like kind of a rough part of town. You work a menial $15 an hour job. The truth is your romantic prospects are limited, right? It's true whether you're a day laborer in Karachi or a DoorDash driver in New York, right? That bottom tier, I don't want to say bottom tier, it makes it sound bad, but the lowest wage, low prospect males tend to be easily targeted by groups offering not just inclusion and purpose, but a chance to gain. It's a vehicle to gain some sort of social prestige, right? And that's what radicalization happens, because sometimes those groups are relatively harmless. It's a, CrossFit or whatever. But sometimes they're very harmful. And I won't name them because I don't want to get demonetized, but you can infer the type of groups that I'm talking about that convince young men to do stupid acts of violence. Uh-oh, he's pissed.
Spy!
Boys, we have a traitor!
I think not.
This is another point that's very interesting about loyalty, is that oftentimes, especially in the like corporate world, there's some types of groups where their loyalty is not to the company, right, or to the organization, or where their loyalties are divided. As you can see, Spy is loyal to both the other Spy because he identifies strongly with him, but he's also loyal to the Red Team, even though the Red Team is made up of people who are very, very different from him. And this is sort of a tough function, but it shows up a lot. For example, maybe you have a company where here's a great example. Physicians are like this. Wherever doctors are working, they just sort of, because of their shared experiences and their shared like sense of kind of a code, they will often look out for each other when there is not a financial incentive to do so, or even a financial disincentive to do so. For example, a doctor at one company looking to acquire another might sit down with the doctor at that company and go, hey, listen, this acquisition's like, it's on the table. You should think about jumping ship. Another example actually that I've seen is military veterans. Oftentimes, if you see another veteran, oftentimes the veteran, the military loves iconography, so it's very easy to signal to someone that they're a veteran. And sometimes there's honestly like just a vibe. And oftentimes when you have this vibe, you will treat them as someone who is closer to a friend than you otherwise might. I've had it where sometimes you get told that, hey, this and this is a scam. Let me give you the real. Let me give you the real fair deal when you're making this purchase. Sometimes it's just priority service. Sometimes it's just being treated better than the general public. But definitely being a part of those little weird in-group cults can be interesting and can produce dividends, even when it's not your team. Uh-oh. They're in trouble.
You have betrayed my trust. You have betrayed everyone.
Phew! That was getting heavy.
You know, guys, I will say sometimes it's just a little easier. Sometimes it's like when people dread this bad thing happening to them in the future, right? Like, what if everyone hates me? And in some ways, it's easy and freeing to just be like, everyone finally hates me. I don't need to worry about it happening because it's happened. This is one of the classic arguments of Stoicism, right? Where sometimes the anticipation of the bad thing is orders of magnitude worse than the actual bad thing happening. It's like fearing losing your job. You fight and fight and fight and fight, and then one day you lose it and you're just like, it's done. It's done. I've woken up the next day and it's over. You know? And then you just have to move on.
Sorry to pop in unannounced.
Aw, crap.
Here I come! Get on the house!
Spooky. This was such a dark SFM until the very end. I'm so glad this got a happy ending, actually. This is great. And it's true, guys. Unfortunately, there's so many conflicts that are like this, where people just fight for no reason, and it would just be, we all are better off when we can collaborate and make things better. It sounds stupid, but it works on a micro level too. Like, competition can be nice, but collaboration is so much more powerful. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining me. As always, please hit subscribe, and of course, I will see you guys in the next one.